Well, hello. Today we're working on a 1999 Jaguar XK8. Customer complaint is that the upper strut mount is rotting away. So that's what it looks like on the car now. And this is what it should look like when we're all fixed up. Well, let's get started. Put you in a good spot. Set that off to the side here. Okay. First I want to point out that the people at Jaguar definitely have worked in the aircraft industry, because in the factory they zip tie the ABS wire. Strangest thing I've ever seen. Make sure I'm still in focus in the picture here. Got a quick release on the back of the ABS wire here. Keep you from stressing stuff. Just tuck it out of the way. We'll hook it up when we're all done. Now we're going to take the brake caliper off of here. And those are a 17 millimeter. They're tightened to about 104 foot-pounds, I think, or 103 foot-pounds. They're pretty snug. No Loctite on that one. No Loctite on this one. Take our pry bar, because somebody will freak out if you use a screwdriver. At least on YouTube. Just loosen this up a little bit. We're not going to hang it right away. We're going to set it off to the side here. We'll undo stuff, and then we'll move it to the other side so it's out of the way of the strut when we take the strut off. So just sit that right there. Work our rotor off. Don't need any big tools, just be a little persistent. This thing doesn't even sit out in the rain, get driven in the rain, so there's not much rust here. So the upper wishbone fulcrum bolt, they call it, is a 24 millimeter. I only have one 24 millimeter socket, or I'm sorry, wrench. So the other side I'm using a 15/16, which is pretty close. I'm going to get a gun and buzz those a little bit. This little Milwaukee's not a powerhouse. This is the right angle impact. But once you get things loose, it does. a funny beveled washer. The way these work, there's a little bevel here, and it kind of sandwiches in the upper control arm, or wishbone bushing as they call it. Set those there. Because that is how the alignment is adjusted, you have to be careful when you pull this out to get all of the shims in the right spot. We'll pull it halfway out, reposition ourselves. And the way this fits in here, you can't get it past the brake hose bracket, so you got to kind of pull it and work it back and forth till you get it out of there. And that upper bushing is coming apart on this side, but it's not the end of the world. It's almost a bearing in there instead of a bushing. So on the aft edge, we have another washer. Looks like a pair of spacers. Working our bolt back and forth here. So on the aft edge, I have two shims, keep them where they belong. Another one of those funny flanged washers. So if we tip this out, we want to make sure we don't lose track of our spacers once again. We have got two thinner spacers in that funny washer. Two thin spacers on the funny washer. Now I'm going to take this and tap it back in here. Like I said, it's not really a normal bushing, it's more of a bearing. So we'll take the outside washer off. Now we're going to tip our upper fulcrum, or upper A-arm as they call it, out of the way and hang our caliper so that it's not going to get damaged in the process here. Hang it right there. Okay. So our strut is ready to have the lower pivot bolt, they call it, taken out. And that should be a 19 millimeter on the nut side. So I'll find a little socket to buzz that out. And an 18 on the bolt side. So we'll hold the bolt with an 18. Try to get that going the right way. Yep. Got a nut and a flat washer. Lift up just a little bit with my knees to control that. And I get a bolt and a flat washer. I'll set those off to the side here. It's got a locking nut on it. I don't have a new one, so we'll put a little Loctite on reach my hand down here to get the last bolts off. Got it. Pull the strut down and out of the car. There we go. Someday before I die, I might upgrade to a Brannick. If not, I'll just keep using this one. Okay, so we're to the point where I can pivot it. A couple more turns, I'll be able to take it apart safely. There we go. Use a 17 millimeter on the top here. Take the nut off. Set it off to the side. It's a lock nut. I should get a new lock nut with the new one. Go get me a pry driver here. There's little plastic hooks that kind of hold on this lower buffer to the spring. There's also a plastic stop there. Okay, that's out. Got my rubber bumper and my strut. So today we're using a set of Bilstein. The box in my best German says original. There's a part number if you care. They're, according to the manufacturer, the same left and right. We have similar looking. Slide the hat off. This has got a hat, an insulator, and a stop plastic guide for the spring itself. I've marked it, a little yellow mark here, what I want to be the outside when all is said and done. This is the new upper shock mount insulator. Foam here, cup, no bearing, it doesn't pivot on this surface. But this is the one we took out. The foam is gone. It's been smashed. It's probably original equipment. And once again, I marked it, so I'm going to match this up to include that is my mark. So that is how I'm going to put it back in the car. So we're back to the spring compressor. We got the hat and the isolator and the guide and the rubber bumper installed. We lift off the old one. We've got to snap these little plastic fingers into the spring. Okay, so we're going to run that nut down just to get it holding all the way down. loosen up our safeties, because if you try to loosen them after you've taken all the pressure off, well, they don't come off anymore. Need to turn that just a little bit. About the capacity of this strut compressor. Very fine, small coils. Got a nut in hand. Feed the strut into the hole.
Yellow?
Well, today we have a treat. My nephew came by. Say hi, Jack.
Hello.
And he has decided that his wife might need to be able to defend herself. And I think this qualifies. Thanks, Jack.
I showed it to Auntie, and she was like, "What do you got? You ordered?"
Put on these upper nuts. Run them down just loosely. They only go to about 23 foot-pounds. And my alignment is still not perfect on the bottom, so we use our alignment tool. Come around, you guys. Have to bring it up just a little bit to make it touch again. And I need to bring that lower control arm up just a little bit more. The lower wishbone, as they call it. Put our washer on. Grab some blue Loctite. Don't have to go overboard with this stuff. Just a little bit goes a long way. Not trying to glue it on. We're trying to keep it from vibrating off. And we'll run the nut in. Good enough. This way. Get our brake caliper back out where it belongs. Set it back here where it was when we started. cone washer, alignment shims, that side going. Another cone washer, 2 thick shims, cone washer in, those shims in. Our last cone washer and our nut. Before I start rattling that, I'm going to hang the caliper. We'll do Loctite on the caliper bolts. Tuck my pads back in. Push onto the caliper. Push onto the rotor. Can't get many tools in there, that's why I used a long wrench, because the brake line, which is very hard, rigid brake line and strain relief, blocks direct access to it. Same 17mm box wrench. These go to 103 foot-pounds if I remember right. Torque them when they're done. Those are tight. Okay, now we're going to run this nut in again. Still loose enough to do by hand. We have to route our ABS wire. Comes over the top of the control arm and zip ties down in 2 places. The rubber piece centers on the metal forging here. Maybe it's a casting, who knows? I'm sure somebody will correct me. One of my favorite shortcut tools. Zip tie gun. Done. Nice and tight. Now I need to bring it up till I'm just taking the pressure off of this right front pad so that I can tighten the bolts in this compressed suspension. Okay, we're off the pad. You can't reach back here very well to do this once the car has a tire on it. Got a 19 on the back here. An 18 on the bolt. There we go. Give these a hand tight check. These only go to about 20 foot-pounds. You don't have to kill them. And so they wouldn't get lost or damaged, I put the little plastic caps back here in the trunk. They're a grand total of 6 little plastic caps. And from the factory, according to pictures I've seen, there was actually a little cap that went over the top of the strut mount. But they were no longer with this car when the owner bought it. Okay. Take off our steer nut. Lower it onto the full droop. Make sure I catch it on the lift. Roll the tire in here. Lug nut straight up. Hang the wheel. Not like most cars today, while there's a cone, there's also a shank to these. So you want to be careful, make sure they're lined up and not digging into the wheel. In theory, that should provide a better anchor for the wheel, but if you don't tighten them down properly, it can also wallow out the holes. Go to 76, we'll tighten them with a torque wrench when we're done, because nobody wants to have a wheel fall off. Let's bring this thing down. Double checking our torque spec for the lug nuts here. are alloy wheels. They go to 65 to 75 foot-pounds. Set my torque wrench for 75. Taught my kids to go around it one more time. My daughter-in-law missed one time, and the wheel got very wobbly before she figured it out. So fortunately no one was hurt, nothing was lost, but it would have made for a very bad day. So Steve, your car's back together. Thanks, have a good day.